anybody doing anything exciting this weekend? Easter. Oh, right. I'm awful. Happy Easter!
Happy Seder.
Thank you. Thank you. Did anyone go to Dana Ward's reading last night?
I went down to Case Western Reserve and then I looked at the time and I'm just like, I'm an idiot.
We went the wrong time.
Yeah.
So no one went.
I've been.
Bummer.
What time did you go and what time was it at?
I had it written down in my planner for 7:30, but it was from 6 to 7.
Yeah, it was early.
Yeah. I don't know why I put it down for 7:30.
I don't know
But I did.
either. Huh, okay.
I ended up going to Mayhall's though. There was a band I saw the night before. That's cool.
Okay. Well, alright, I guess I'll just have to ask Dana how it went.
Yeah.
Pretend my students weren't there. Okay, so we'll just hope that people kind of trickle in. If not, it's fine. This is Aaron. He's a musician, obviously, because it's Poetry Music Friday. Some things that I want to think about during the performance, just like last time. I want us to be thinking about rhythm and meter. I want to think about this idea of troubling the line. What does that mean? What would it mean to trouble the line, do you think? What does it mean to trouble anything?
Cause problems for it.
To cause problems for it? What else?
Disrupt.
To disrupt? To challenge? Yeah, absolutely. So how can we apply that to poetry or music? What does troubling the line mean in this context?
Challenging convention.
Challenging convention. So you guys are now all songwriters, right? Because you wrote a song. We'll just pretend, okay? But you're certainly poets. So what does it mean when you're troubling the line when you're writing? What does that look like for you? Yeah, enjambment. What else?
Doing things like a different abstract way.
Uh-huh. What are some poetic devices that you use to do that? We have enjambment. What else? Line breaks. What else?
Sure.
Caesura. Fabulous. Okay. Think about those things. Listen for them. I want you to think about rhyme and not just end rhyme. What other kinds of rhyme are we thinking about? Internal rhyme, slant rhyme. What else? What specific kinds of internal rhyme are we looking at? Assonants, consonants. Good, okay. So we're thinking about formal constraints, and I also, obviously, we're going to be watching a performance, so I'd like to think about the act of performance. The bummer of your song, which is so good, is that it's not put to music, right? So you haven't been able to perform it, even though the act of collaboration was kind of a performance in and of itself. At least that's what the update sounded like from Carol, right? Okay, so also the last thing I want you to think about, how does this relate to a canticle? What's different? What's the same? How can you compare and contrast the idea of a canticle to, I don't know, I put song in quotes because a canticle is technically a song. I didn't want to say normal song because I don't think it's a thing. So, Aaron, you want to tell us like some things about yourself before you start?
Sure. Well, she sucked me into this whole thing, but technically, I guess if you're a musician, you're always a musician, but I would say that I would be a retired musician. She's pulling me out of retirement. But, I mean, I used to play heavily. I lived in Boston for 5 years and played with like a full band of music students. We did some touring and recording and stuff. I don't know. I started playing when I was young, probably like 13, and then I didn't start writing until probably 16, and then I typically, as I guess you'll hear from the first song, I typically I tried not to like stick to any particular form, I guess. I just kind of just like wrote what I felt I should write. And then when I was out in Boston, we like started working with an actual producer, and they were like, "Here, let me teach you about song structure," and things like that. Which I still have mixed emotions about. You know, like part of me really likes the kind of just whatever you feel like writing, just writing it. You know, versus like this is what it's supposed to sound like. And actually, that's what I really enjoyed about being in the band that I was in, was that like I was the only person in the band who wasn't like extremely trained. Like I mean, I was working with like a cellist who had been classically trained since she was 6. Like a very, I mean, just like they were all. Berklee College of Music is one of the best music schools in the country, and they were all like top students over there. So it was fun because like they were like very structured, and I was like, and it would just it worked. I mean, it worked. So I don't know, and then that's it. I mean, I stopped really playing because it was kind of like a bad breakup, everything was fine, and then we just like exploded and fizzled out, like based solely on emotions and relationships. It had nothing to do with music at all. We just like all started hating each other. And this person was with that person. And it was just alcohol and drugs.
It's like a movie.
Yeah, it was. So I just I don't know. That's where I'm at.
What got you to Cleveland?
I grew up here, so when I really wanted to get out of Boston, especially because as soon as the band ended, it was like, why else would I stay in Boston? I mean, it's a beautiful city, it's great to visit, blah blah blah, but it's third most expensive city in the country, and it doesn't really offer anything to kind of match that. So like your input doesn't match the output essentially. So I wanted to get out of there, and then. I moved back here with my girlfriend. We thought about going to California. She got accepted into a master's program at Pepperdine, and then we ended up finding good jobs here. And Cleveland is actually.
Aaron loves Cleveland.
I love Cleveland.
And if you want to talk to Aaron about how much Cleveland is the best place on earth, he's the person to do that with, especially. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you all about it after class.
Yeah, I love Cleveland.
He's a champion of Cleveland. So, what Aaron said was really interesting. I want you to think about the differences between the first song and the second song. I requested is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
I requested the first song. It was like the first one that I really, really, really loved and felt super connected to. And I think it's because it's in a free verse. I want you to think about it kind of like Brian Tier, right? Who's been kind of the loosest formally that we've looked at, and maybe the second song like a Neruda sonnet or kind of the 5 stanzas of Atkinson. Okay, fabulous.
All right.
Ready whenever you are.
You'll have to forgive me. I have a little sinus infection, which is lack of sleep.
So you seem super prepared.
That whole thing. Table.
You can do whatever you feel.
That's really loud.
or you wanted to?
That's a good question. We didn't do it like that last time, but maybe. Maybe, yeah. Let's say some things about this particular song. What did you guys notice formally? I mean, think about the song you wrote, which was really structured. What happened in this song that was different?
It's cool that it kind of just went like, I feel like it almost like, it was feeding off itself opposed to like feeding off some external form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was this cyclic?
I felt like it was like an expression of emotion because it was just kind of like the way that words kind of like went one word and kind of go up and down and kind of like express things like crying or yelling or whatever. Coming out sort of in that same way.
Yeah. So your song was cyclic. Was this cyclic?
I didn't feel that way.
I felt like this song started at point A and ended at point B, right?
Yeah.
So it went somewhere
And
and
the way
didn't come back.
like how it starts, like, you know, people trying to drag you down, and then it's nothing's gonna stop us, and like how like you use like strum patterns like from the beginning where it's kind of like more melancholy to like more like aggressive at the end. Like
So there was a gradual build.
yeah.
What does that remind you of? Who else does that? Atkinson, right? Remember the structure? Yeah. What else did we notice?
Well, I noticed when you were playing, sometimes when your voice changed, its tone, the music either went high or low. So the music kind of changed a little bit. And you can kind of tell, like, somewhere around the middle, there was like a turning point because it was like it was like a da-da-da-da, like throughout the whole song, but it came to a point where it just kind of switched to like a new tone, like it was like a turning point. And I think around that turning point, you're like, take a look around. Like it was a turning point there, so that's what I kind of noticed about that.
That's good, Natasha. What's that turning point called?
A voltage.
A volta. Good. Good. Do you have anything you want to say about that song?
As far as the structure part, there's, before the like pre-producer, I like barely ever did like a chorus. So like this song doesn't really have a chorus. I mean, it has like a part that could be considered a chorus, but the words are different each time. There's no like repeating lines anywhere in the song. It never says the same thing over and over again, you know, which is like really, I mean, it's like almost every, you know, if you think of like almost every song, it's like there's a chorus, there's that part that you can like grab onto, like, whereas like here there's nothing. And it's, I don't know, I love that. And it's like, because then you're just like, for me it was just like, okay, I'm just going to say what I want to say, and that's it. Like I don't want to, if I don't want to repeat something, I'm not going to, you know, like I'm just going to say it and just go with it. So it's, I don't know, it feels more natural, I guess, whereas the next song is not. But I might like the next one more. I'm not saying I don't, but it's just like,
I think that's an interesting social commentary of subverting form, right? And that feels natural. Subversion feels natural, as opposed to the constraint, right? So, interesting. Awesome.
and the way to tie that into the next song is like, so I kicking and screaming like changed this next song. I don't remember exactly how it was before, but like it was closer to the first song than it is now. It wasn't exactly like that, but it was closer. So I think what had happened is that it challenged me to somehow try to keep the same feel while adapting to the structure. I guess that's the best way to say it. So
Which
like,
is what you do in a sonnet, right? That's what Neruda did. Yeah.
Okay. So that was like, because I remember when I was being surrounded by 5 people telling me that, no, you have to do this, that was my thought, was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do it, I still have to somehow keep that, whatever it is.
So it sounds like the challenge is how are you an individual, right? With your own point of view, your own tone and perspective within a specific structure. Nice, great.
So I can tell you right now, like I said about the sinuses, there's going to be a part in the song where I'm going to have a really hard time singing it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yay.
It's, but
Someone's always coming around, trying to find the place where I belong. Maybe if we think real hard, the grounds will fall when we turn around. What happens when they wake up tomorrow? I don't wanna wake up tomorrow. Sleeping when the lights turn bright, watching smiles fade when we say goodnight. Crawling on the bathroom floor, but the newsman said it's gonna be alright. What happens when they wake up tomorrow? I don't wanna wake up tomorrow. You know me better than you should. We've got our backs against the wall. As the time slips by, leaving us behind with our dirty minds. Tomorrow is another day, but another day just slips away. What happens when they wake up tomorrow? I don't wanna wake up tomorrow. Hiding in the bathroom with a head down, hanging from the back door, and I can't come down. What happens when they wake up tomorrow? I don't wanna wake up tomorrow. You know me better than you should. We've got our backs against the wall. Somebody's always coming around, trying to find the place where I belong. You know me better than you should. We've got our backs against the wall.
guys.
Dude.
What a treat. Questions. What do we have?
That's not good.
Thank you.
I told you I'd bring a real musician. Did you doubt me? Maybe. So what are some questions? Going back to kind of our original list, what did you intend to ask today? You can ask those or anything that you felt during the song. Yeah, Angela.
What's your inspiration for your rhyme and lyrics?
Oh boy. I mean, it just depends. Like, so like the first song was really straightforward. I mean, it was just like I was. It's like 10 years ago, but I was thinking about like how shitty, realistically, it is like being a kid. And like my sister's 5 years younger than me, and she was just catching like so much crap at school and things like that. And I just remember being like, and like as I got a little bit older, I was like, what a joke! Like what a joke! How do these people not understand that they're like, you know, they're the same? And then like I had gone to college and like, you know, I grew up and I like was popular or whatever it was. And then I got to like college and I was like nobody. I mean, I was at a school with 30,000 people, and I was just like, it was like a wake up call. So it was kind of like a mix of like maybe how did I treat people? How's my sister being treated? How was I being treated as I got out of that environment? And it like kind of like just created this like whole idea in my mind of like that, and that's where that first one came from. And then the second one, it was like I don't even know. I remember starting to write it and like so I started to write the music first, and then I had just watched this documentary on the dark side of the moon, like about how they made it, and they were talking about how they were writing songs and talking about this stuff, and I was just really inspired to like go write. It wasn't necessarily like about that or whatever, but it just like got me thinking, and then I don't know. I feel like for me at least, most of my stuff comes out of realistically.
Well, so we've been reading a lot of confessional poets. We're kind of moving away from that, but we're about to jump right back in with Ginsberg in a week. Do you have an audience in mind when you're writing? Because something that we struggle with as poets is that the more personal the experience we're writing about, the more difficult it is to relate to kind of a universal audience, right? So while we want to express the emotion of what was happening, we also want it to be relatable and to connect. Is that something that you think about?
For a long time, no, and then I was kind of like pigeonholed into like starting to have to think about it, but I still didn't really think about it.
Do you feel exposed when you write a very vulnerable song and it's out there kind of for the world?
Kind of, but it's like I enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, like especially because you like talk to people on the surface and you get an idea of like who somebody is. So again, I feel like it all stems back to like just growing up, like growing up in this like fake bubble.
We obviously have strange upbringing, childhood.
Yeah, so it's like everything's fake and plastic and like, hi, like how are you? Good. How are you? You know, and it's just like you go through that for so long that when you finally have an opportunity to be like, it's like enjoyable. So yeah, I mean it's exposing, but I feel like for me I need it. You know?
Right. Because you're not a depressed person. I would say that you're. I'm going to go ahead and say that you're not a depressed person.
Yeah, I mean I'm not
every day.
No,
right.
I'm not. No, but I'm not as like necessarily as happy as I may appear to be.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm miserable, but like, and a lot of times I am really happy. So I don't, you know, like sometimes I'm like legitimately like, so happy. But I swear, guys, no. So no, but I, you know, and I feel better when I do stuff like this. It makes me feel better because I feel like I'm getting it out, so it's not as.
Yeah.
But
I think we, as writers, we can certainly relate to that. Yeah. What else?
You said you started writing at about the age of 16. How much did your writings change and like the tone change over time?
a lot. At first, it was like, well, let's see. Okay, when I was 16, I was doing a lot of drugs, so now I don't. So from 16 to 20, it was like really. I was on drugs. So from 16 to 20, the music was very dark, and like the first song came from that period of time, but that was like, and you could tell at the beginning of it was kind of dark, but that's as bright as it ever got. You know what I mean? Like the rest was like miserable. So and then at 20, to be honest, at 20, there were, I started to get healthier. So, in a sense, the music kind of got healthier too. It wasn't as like erratic, and wasn't, it was like sad for a reason and when it needed to be. I feel like it was more honest. It wasn't like polluted. Like the beginning was like the music was not. Like I typically don't like most of the stuff that I wrote before 20. I think everything that really matters came after, except for maybe that one song, like maybe one or two others.
Interesting. What else?
Would you say that your sound has changed? Like your way you sing songs and
Yeah, that too. I used to like mumble through all the songs.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it was very like, but again, that was also that apathetic place that I was, So like those songs were very just like,
Yeah.
So you cross over there, and yeah, absolutely. Like I start to focus more on kind of projecting, and like, it's a little bit more powerful and clearer, easier to understand the lyrics. And because then I'm like, you know what? Actually, I want people to know what I'm saying instead of just being like, I think he said that.
The performances changed for sure. I mean, also the band changed, right? So at the end, you were playing with
Yeah.
a bunch of people.
Yeah, playing with a band was definitely different too. It was a lot more. I mean, it was a sizable band with like a very aggressive drummer. So it was like that song was live was big. You're hearing it on acoustic, and I think it alone is a big song. I mean, but like with the whole band with like keyboards, and, and like bass and a second guitar and like a drummer who is arguably one of the best drummers I've ever seen, and I've seen probably 100 different bands, even more, probably more. The guy was amazing. I mean, just like, but he was insane. He was insane.
So, you're with your sound and like do you ever try to imitate? And I'm just wondering where you get the
Are you thinking about
inspiration for your
influences,
sound.
Kate?
Influences, but definitely influences, but also I don't know, just how you formed kind of what I think ultimately is like your genre.
Right. I mean, it definitely started with some imitating, and like, like I grew up listening to like 90s rock and stuff like that. So I started with that.
Go ahead, share with them
Yeah,
some of the
like
bands
some
you
of
were
the
listening
bands.
to at the
Yeah.
time.
A lot of Radiohead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
was gonna say,
first thing I
you
wrote
sound
down
like Tom
was
York.
Tom York.
A ton of Radiohead.
That is exactly what I kind
Yeah, I couldn't like.
of like.
You can't get. I can't. Like, I listened to so much of it that it
Yeah.
it was almost like it was my like teacher.
I love it.
Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
And then I tried like.
You don't have to escape it. It's fine.
The problem is like you can't. It's a good challenge because it's like I'm not Tom York, and I could never be. I mean, he's like,
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you have your own sound? But like, really, when I close my eyes and like sing, that's what comes out. So it's like, I think, so I don't try to. I actually try not to. I feel like I used to sound more because I was like, oh, it's cool.
That's a really good point. I want everyone to kind of think about how you can relate that to your own writing, because that's really everyone's struggle, right? Is we feel like everything's been done before. When I say I want you to come up with something fresh, I'm sure it's really frustrating, because if you're anything like me, you feel like there is no such thing, right? So how do we come up with new patterns and fresh language and imagery and make it our own while being kind of influenced by the giants, right? We have to be. There's a literary tradition, there's a musical tradition that came before us. So we're going to be referenced back no matter what. So how do you make it uniquely yours? What else?
You said that the first song seemed like more natural, and you have the ability to go from like free verse to a song with a chorus. Do you think it's important to have structure, or do you think that it's more? Do you lean towards one more than the other?
Yes, I don't know. It's weird because like I was trying to say this earlier. It was like what? So if I want to just write something naturally, what if that's what happens? Like, can't I just like write it? And then is it like essentially that second song I wrote closer to the first song. I just wrote it, and it didn't have like a real chorus. It didn't go back. You know, it was like, all right, hold on, take that, put that there, you know, break this verse up with this. And so it started becoming, and at the end of the day, I ended up liking it more. So it's like, So I guess, I don't know if that's the answer to your question, but like maybe I have to write it one way. Because I don't want to like stop mid-process and be like, all right, let me worry about the form and structure and things like that. So if something's like happening naturally, like I feel like you just let it happen. And then if you want to go in and make it better or change it.
Who else wrote like that when they were doing their sonnets?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah.
I took an old poem actually, which was way longer, and like stuck it into like just took lines out of it and made it into a song.
Did that?
And it worked.
It did.
Yeah. I mean,
I liked that poem.
yeah.
Yeah.
It worked-ish. I think it worked.
It did. It did. Yeah.
I think something like, I know I get hung up a lot is like, I'll linger on something and it'll be like, oh, it's so great, like I like that. But then it's like when I try to edit it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what am I writing anymore? And it's just like, why didn't I get all those other things that were like the wheels? Like I'll like get stuck, you know. Some like you'll hit something really good, and then that will like get you off track because like you want that to sound perfect. So then you just like don't let out all the rest of the stuff that was going to jump off of that because you just like stalled and the train runs away. Like no, go back.
So what that sounds like to me is, do you highlight like very special moments within your work?
I think I like am editing while I'm writing instead of just putting it all down. I've been trying it recently to just like get things out, opposed to just like because I don't know like so I wonder do you have that problem ever like where you'll be like writing and you know you'll like find something you really like and you'll stall and you'll try to make it work but then you kind of like lose what the rest would have been. Is that ever happened? Yeah.
Tape recorder's good.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Like that's why recently I started. I realized like, holy wait, smartphones have these little sound recorders. Like, why don't I utilize this thing?
It's so much easier now. Like,
it's
We
really.
used
I don't want to date myself. No, it's
don't
funny
tell
because like even me dating myself is not as like I used to have to use a computer.
Right.
You know, like oh my god.
Well, no.
I had to sit in front of a computer and press record. All you gotta do is press that button on your fancy phone.
Yeah, a touchscreen.
So, do you have any suggestions for us when we get to that point where we get hung up on something? I like to call those mental obsessions.
Yeah.
Or we're having what I don't believe in, which is we like to call writer's block. I don't think that's a thing, but do you have any suggestions? What do you do when that happens?
I don't know if I have any suggestions, but I guess what might I? Yeah, I mean, I take out the record it, and like move on, or obsess about it. I mean, either way, I mean, you're gonna like if I get stuck on something, sometimes I'll like sit there until I just figure it out.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
I like stepping away. I have to especially if I think something's super brilliant, that's a good time to walk away and come back a week later and see if I still think it's super brilliant.
Right.
Because usually I'm like, no, wasn't
Right.
exactly what I thought it was. I like what Dan said. You know, we really fall in love with our work, especially lines. Like lines are very important. And so sometimes that line doesn't fit in the poem, but you're so in love with it, it's really hard to edit it out because it becomes a part of you. Have you ever had problems in editing? What's your revision process like?
I guess so.
Yeah. Sometimes, well, going back to it, sometimes I would play through. So like, say I was having trouble figuring a line, or I wanted to keep a line in, whatever it is. I just play through it. So like, continue writing. So I'll go through like the verse. And I'll go through a bunch of times. I'm like, and that sounds okay, and then maybe like move on to the next thing, and then be like, all right, and just keep playing through, and then like start over from the beginning, play it from the first verse into the first period, whatever. Go through and then eventually you have a whole song.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. And then I have no problem taking a line out and just putting it in something else. Like,
Which is a really good idea.
I'm like, oh man, that was awesome. But then it's like, it makes zero sense here. But you just take it and put it somewhere else. And that somewhere else may never work. It may never turn into anything like
Right.
read or perform or whatever. But it's still just try it.
Can you talk to us a little bit about rhyme, which I know most musicians that I talk to who write songs don't think about it consciously. It just kind of happens naturally for them. But can you kind of talk about, are you aware of rhyme? Is there like a certain form you try to follow?
I hate rhyme.
Yeah, we
I
kind
hate
of all do.
I feel like, and I know I, of course, have to do it, but sometimes it's like, if it happens, I'm like, well, that was the word that I wanted to use anyway. Like, that word makes sense. What other word would I put there instead? Like, it's like, it was almost like they made the English language on purpose.
They did.
So,
People
yeah.
communicate.
So,
Like,
it's a joke,
it was a good one.
right? But like, I hate having to fit rhyme into stuff, and I don't want to do it, ever. Personally. And I feel like, especially with music, not as much with poetry, I mean, a little bit with poetry too. Definitely with poetry too, but I feel like with music especially, it just gets so cheesy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if you're rhyming all the time in music, like, I hate you and I don't want to listen to your music.
Which is why it sounds like Radiohead is kind of like what we gravitate towards.
Well,
Things
Radiohead
like that.
is amazing.
Well,
Right.
yes, but also
Arguably the best band of our generation, so I'm just saying.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
I also think that they do something very interesting, which is they also subvert form in a way that
Yeah.
rhyme is. He mumbles a lot.
Yeah, but also,
It passes his voice through 85 computers to have
Right, so
someone-
actually things that wouldn't normally rhyme end up sounding like rhymes. But if you look at the lyrics, sometimes I'm amazed that that's what it actually is supposed to be.
well,
Right?
that's because there's a level. I mean, I don't even think I can't even go near that. There's a level of like musical genius there, and I'm not just saying this because I'm obsessed. It's true. Like, essentially, Johnny Greenwood, the guitar player, is a madman. He's brilliant. So like he knows exactly what notes, and he helps guide Tommy work with things like that. And like they know exactly what notes, so that it doesn't matter what you're saying, because the notes are what they should be. It sounds perfect. So
That's-
it's like it's completely like he's rhyming with the music, not with the words. Like they're using like these weird like breaks of like mixing in like dissonant tones and then pulling them back together and like doing all these things where it's not necessarily the right note. It's not like what typically like I would write. I'm like, oh, that's the note that sounds right to me. Like they find the note that's like over there that pulls it all together and makes it what it is.
Who does that? Poetically. Without music. Brian Tier, right? Why do his rhymes work? What makes his rhymes work? Why are they not cheesy? Why are they difficult to find, but it just sounds right? Why does mothering the blade sound right? Line breaks, right? Form. His form is the music, right? So we don't have music. At least not when we're performing, unless we bring something along with us, right? And if we do set our poems to music, that means that they are songs. But on their own, a cappella, they're poems, right? So what do we have that helps us elide syllables, that helps us make things fit, that the tricks, right? That would make something really ridiculous sounding if we were just, yeah. I think Brian Tier is really genius, and that's how he kind of gets away with that. Think about the poems that are conversation with itself, right? You have the ones that are italicized and then moved, that are right justified. To make that jump, if those lines, think about what that would be like if that was a Stickic poem.
Probably just garbage, nonsense, gobbledygook.
Or it would feel cliche, right? It would feel expected, but it's not. Yeah. Good. What else? Can take a couple more.
When we're writing a paper, we have to come up with a thesis, and then you build your whole paper around this thesis. When you're writing your songs, you have something that you build upon, or do you take a sound and you build upon that, or a word or a line and build upon that? How do you come up with your songs?
And I'll add to that, it's a really good point, Natasha. So how we're being challenged to think about thesis statements are arguments, right? So we're making an argument. Our poem is making an argument. Our sounds are making an argument. Our papers are making an argument. Everything we do essentially is an argument. So a message. Do you want your listener to come away with a specific argument or message? And then I really like what Natasha said about do you build on something specifically?
Right. So, I guess for me, it's either way. It's like sometimes I'm like, all right, this is what I have this idea in my head, and like I want it to be a song, whatever it is. I mean, like, and sometimes working with a band, though, sometimes I didn't write all of the music. Sometimes other people wrote music, and then I was like, all right, I have an idea. I want to put this idea to this music because that's the idea that I get when I hear that song. Like I'm thinking of a specific song. There's a song in my mind where like the bass player wrote it was really cool and whatever, and it was like it was pretty dark, and I was like, and I wanted to tie it to this thing about him that I hated. Right? So I'm like, it reminds me of this like flaw essentially, and the music was, it was like he wrote it for that. It was this amazing thing. So it was like tying that idea. But there were other times where it was just like this music, I need to write something to it. I don't know what it was. I was like, oh, here's that. And I already forgot your question.
Building,
Building.
messaging, sounds. Natasha was saying, like, we have thesis statements. You're doing great. We have thesis statements, and she was asking, Natasha, do you want to rephrase so I don't butcher what you said?
Yeah, like when you're writing, do you just take like a specific word, a sound, something that you're thinking about, and then you build upon that? Is that how you start your songs, or is it just like a combination of different type of things?
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to answer. It was like sometimes it's an idea. Sometimes it's just what sounds good.
So you mentioned that you write the music first.
Typically, yeah.
Okay. So are you trying to fit your lyrics to the music? Is that how you approach that?
See, I don't look at it like that.
Oh, good. Tell us.
Like whenever I wrote a song, it was like I'd play the song and I would just play it over and over again until the words appeared. That sounds crazy, but
it was more organic.
Yeah, it was like, all right, this is what this song sounds like. What needs to be? What else? For me, because I'm not a writer. I'm not. If you said, hey, write a poem, there's no way in hell I could sit down and write you a poem right now Couldn't do it.
Obviously not true, but
No, I couldn't do it. I'm telling you, couldn't do it. But I look at words as another, like, it's just like another instrument. You know, for me, because like I'm sitting and writing a song and I'm like, okay,
that's beautiful. Write that down.
I'm like, all right, well, okay, if I put a second guitar part, because like when I first started writing, I was doing everything by myself on a computer, so I'd write, 2 or 3 guitar parts, put some kind of like percussion type thing in there, and then put in lyrics. So the lyrics were more about like what sounds right, and then my mind would kind of turn that melody into the words. And if there is some kind of thesis, if there was some kind of idea, to be honest, that was like years later. At first it was just like totally like, just like, and then sometimes, and when you listen to the end, somehow it made sense as a song. It was like, oh, that's kind of about, at least it gives you an idea. Like I had an idea, I think that might be about this.
That sounds like, I think a lot of poets have a hard time talking about their work because things that we interpret and we're like, oh my gosh, you did this really amazing thing. It wasn't necessarily on purpose. And so they're like, yes, I did do that great thing, but we're not really sure how it got to that point. And that's kind of what happens when you put your work out there, right? You no longer have a monopoly on meaning or how people interpret things. So that's kind of the other half of this is that when you what part of writing music, what part of writing poems can't be taught, right? So we have tricks of the trade, but what separates good poetry from poetry or a good song from songs is that there's something natural and organic that kind of has to happen, right?
I really am surprised that the lyrics come natural. I don't know what, I've never written a song,
Yeah.
obviously, I don't write music, but
Some people do it differently.
yeah, I guess I just assumed that you would always write words and then write music
Like Elton John
that
does the
felt like
opposite.
words or something. Yeah.
That guy Bernie writes all
Oh,
the lyrics, gives them to Elton John, and Elton John takes the lyrics
And
and
writes
puts
music.
music to it.
Yeah.
Which is like,
And a lot
To
of
me, that
musicians
seems crazy.
don't write their own lyrics.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, like I don't know, you're saying that because I was kind of thinking like in my own right, like, like if you told me to go like write a song, like I could like strum 3 chords and do that, but I'm a horrible musician. Like I don't really get that. But like for me, it's just like the words have to come first by nature of like. So it's just cool like that. There's that inverse, there's that dialectic
Yeah.
there.
it's just
Because
who
we're
it is.
poets.
I'm,
And you're a musician, and then, like
yeah.
the words like have to come after you can do the music thing. Like I can write the words, and then it's just like, all right, now we're gonna somehow make this work with some music stuff.
so I always probably ask backwards. It probably
I
is.
don't think either way is necessarily right. It's just it's cool that there's like
Right.
different humans do different things. I don't know.
Because like I'm a guitar player before I am a singer, before I am a writer. I played guitar for 3 years before I even tried to sing along with playing guitar. So I identify myself as a guitar player before I am like a singer, and then I started singing, and then writing was like the last step. So it's like it would make sense for me based on how I kind of progressed as a musician to like start.
So I think identity kind of
Yeah,
is a cornerstone here. I want to hear from Sam.
I'm a jazz musician. I play saxophone, and actually, I'm planning on going to 5 Week this summer at Berkeley. That'll be cool. But I've done some stuff with lyrics. I'm not really a singer though. But I do it more like you. I'll sit down at the piano, just kind of feel out some chords, and then the words just eventually come. But I really do more instrumental writing.
Now that you have the experience, though, of writing poems, like I'm thinking of your Lady Day poem, which is very jazzy, right? Which was very cool. Do you think you could take that poem and put it to music? What would you do in that situation?
Oh, that would be weird.
It would be good.
That would be interesting, actually. I'd probably make it sound somewhat like Strange Fruit, kind of that slow, melancholy kind of thing going, and kind of analyze that chord progression and think about manipulating it so that I'm not directly taking it, but
Yeah.
using some.
And not to embarrass Sam, but what are you, you're 15?
Yeah.
Sam's 15 in our college class and going to Berkeley this summer.
Cool.
No big deal. So,
She's just ahead of
Berkeley's great.
Yeah. I know a few people there, and everyone seems to like it, but it's big, I guess.
So yeah,
I have one more question. You said sometimes you write when you have an idea. Do you ever have an idea, or you may have the music, and you just cannot add any more words, and you're just kind of like stuck on that? So what do you do when that happens?
Good question.
Scream at the wall. Break my computer. I broke my computer 2 days ago.
I think what
Yeah, finally.
maybe what Natasha's asking is maybe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is there a place that you go for inspiration when you're feeling stuck? Like, I know I have specific poets that I go to over and over when I'm feeling really stuck. Is there something you listen to or do that kind of gets you back into the swing of things?
Well, I don't know. Typically, I'll just keep going until I like go absolutely insane, and then something pops up. You know, like I'll just be like, I'll sit there and I'll get real. I get like angry, but then I have a new emotion, anger. You know.
So Aaron's trying to open a flower with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
I like that.
But it's like I'm really stubborn, so like for me to like get up and like stop and be like, oh, I'll just deal with it later. Or, like, let me go sit by a creek. And it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna be like, I will get this done. I am gonna get this done. I'm gonna do it. And now I probably I haven't been playing music though, so like maybe I'm in like a 3-year rut of
When's the last time you played your guitar?
2 weeks ago.
For this specifically?
Yeah.
Before I asked
Before
you,
you asked me.
before I was like, hey, come do this thing, and you were like, no.
I would say I probably play it like once a month.
When's the last time you performed?
Well, no. I was at the hostel, and there was a guitar there.
The hostel in Cleveland?
Which is awesome.
Which
Yeah.
Dan likes.
I was there, and there was a guitar there, and I was at this networking party dinner thing, and like everybody was leaving, and there was like probably like 5 or 6 of us left, and I just picked up the guitar and started playing. But I haven't like officially performed in years.
Yeah.
I have another question. Do you feel that your songs have to be a certain length? Like,
Good
you know, and if you do feel that it has to be a certain length, do you come up with an idea and you know that, okay, I want to write about this, but, you know, you get to a point where you say, okay, I think I've said all I could possibly say. I can't think of anything else to say. What do I do now?
Yeah. I typically don't care about length, you know? I've written songs that are like 7 or 8 minutes. I mean, I don't care. Other people do. So like when you're playing, like when I was with the band and Cruise, they care about length. So like they kind of like either will extend something or shrink it or whatever, you know. But like I said, I'm like the weird one, like the outside of structure one. So like I'll do whatever I had to do, and then that was kind of reined in a lot.
Okay, Caitlin, and then we're gonna take a picture and then you guys can leave.
What is it like collaborating with musicians, like as far as the songwriting process goes?
Pain in the ass. No, it's actually really awesome. I miss it a lot. I do. But one of the most discouraging things about playing music now, after being in the band, is that I just don't like want to do it. It's like I miss like being like the excitement of being like. Oh.
You should do Lottery League, dude. Like,
I don't know about it. I've heard of it, but I don't.
yeah.
But that's like there is an excitement, but it was also like I was not kidding. It was also